Welcome to the Explainer. So, you know IPv4 inside and out, right? But if you think those exact same defenses are going to translate perfectly to IPv6, well, brace yourself for a bit of a reality check. Today, we're diving straight into part 3 of an incredibly detailed 10-part tutorial called IPv6 Security, Vulnerabilities, Misconfigurations, and Mitigations. This research comes to us from the folks over at Virtualization Options LLC. They're a top-notch tech research and advisory group out in Colorado. Since you're likely a network engineer or a cyber pro, you already know the networking basics. So today, we're zeroing in exclusively on Chapter 3. We're going to look at exactly how attackers are weaponizing IPv6's unique architecture to just completely bypass your traditional security controls.
All right, let's take a really quick look at the agenda. We're hitting 5 main sections today. First, the Evasion Toolkit. Second, routing header 0 abuse. Third, the tiny fragment attack. Fourth, secret tunnels. And finally, securing translation. Let's get right into it.
So here's the big question we really need to start with. How do attackers actually sneak past your firewall? Look, you probably have a rock-solid perimeter. You completely trust your stateless firewalls, you've got your perimeter ACLs dialed in, but what if I told you that in the IPv6 world, those trusted legacy defenses might literally be blind to the real threats? Attackers know exactly how your existing hardware operates, and they are using the specific design of IPv6 to just slip right past those checkpoints.
To get how they pull this off, we have to talk about the IPv6 flexible header chain. Now, unlike IPv4, which has a pretty rigid structure, IPv6 lets you chain together these variable length extension headers. It's kind of like a freight train, really, with an infinite number of cars. The engine up front is your main IPv6 header, but an attacker can just keep attaching more and more cargo cars, these extension headers, one after another. So, the malicious payload, it's hiding way in the back behind a dozen totally innocent-looking initial headers. Your firewall looks at those first few cars, says, "Yep, looks good to me," and just lets the entire train roll right through. Attackers absolutely love this architectural difference for exploiting inspection gaps.
Okay, moving to Section 1, the Evasion Toolkit. Let's look at how they exploit these features.
And that brings us to Section 2, Routing Header 0 Abuse. I honestly like to call this one the zombie protocol.
Seriously, think of routing header 0, or RH0, as the ultimate zombie. On paper, RFC 5095 officially killed this thing way back in 2007 because the security implications were just that bad. But here's the scary part. Older network hardware and legacy devices, a lot of them still process it by default today. So just because it was deprecated over a decade ago doesn't actually mean the older routers and firewalls sitting in your racks stopped listening to it. It's dead on paper, but it is very much still walking through your network.
And if your hardware is still processing RH0, you are essentially giving attackers a playground. What can they do? Well, they can execute traffic amplification attacks. That means literally bouncing traffic back and forth between two nodes over and over just to completely choke your bandwidth. They can also launch source routing attacks, where they dictate the exact path a packet takes, forcing traffic through nodes they control. And worst of all, they can achieve a complete firewall bypass, intentionally routing packets right around your security controls. It's a massive oversight to leave this open.
So how do we actually stop this? As engineers, we've got to be proactive here. Step 1, block it at the perimeter. Just drop all packets containing RHO at your borders. Period. There is literally zero legitimate modern use case for this protocol anymore. None. Step 2, audit your configs. Go review your router and firewall configurations right now and make sure RHO is explicitly rejected. Do not just assume your device ignores it by default. You need hard, explicit deny rules here.
All right, Section 3, the tiny fragment attack. This is all about bypassing your ACLs.
So, the core vulnerability here is essentially a structural blind spot. Attackers know that legacy IDSs and stateless firewalls usually can't reassemble fragmented packets before they apply their rules. They're just looking at each packet in total isolation. So, what does the attacker do? They craft a maliciously tiny first fragment. It is so incredibly small that it pushes the really critical stuff, the TCP or UDP headers your firewall actually needs to see to make a block or allow decision, into the subsequent fragments.
Let's break down exactly how this disappearing act works step by step. First, the attacker sends that tiny, completely harmless-looking first fragment. The stateless firewall inspects it, sees absolutely nothing wrong, and lets it through. Second, the actual TCP or UDP headers, along with the malicious payload, show up hidden in the fragments that follow.
because the firewall already gave the green light to the first fragment, and remember, it's stateless, it just lets the rest follow right along. And step 3, boom, the entire malicious flow has just successfully bypassed your access control list. The fix here requires you to put your foot down. You need to drop fragmented packets at the perimeter wherever it's operationally possible. Why? Because honestly, legitimate modern internet traffic talking to your edge services almost never relies on fragmentation anymore. Allowing fragmented IPv6 traffic through your perimeter is just taking on a massive, totally unnecessary risk. The absolute safest mitigation is to drop it right at the border, way before it ever hits your internal stateless inspection devices.
Moving right along to Section 4, Secret Tunnels. Let's see how these bypass your defenses.
Back when we were transitioning from IPv4 to IPv6, all these tunneling mechanisms were built to act as helpful little bridges. Today, they are basically Trojan horses. Let's look at 3 of them. First, 6-4, which automatically tunnels IPv6 traffic over IPv4. The threat here is that it completely bypasses your IPv6 perimeter controls, because to your firewall, it just looks like standard IPv4 protocol 41 traffic. Then, we have ISOTAP. This was designed for intra-site routing, but it is notoriously left enabled by default on external-facing hosts, which just exposes your internal topology to the world. And finally, there's Teredo. This one is super nasty. It encapsulates IPv6 inside standard UDP traffic, and it was explicitly designed to punch completely through net. So an attacker can literally reach an internal host via IPv6 using Teredo, even if your perimeter is blocking all inbound IPv4. Wild, right?
So, the main takeaway from the research team at Virtualization Options is pretty clear here. You absolutely cannot assume your standard perimeter checks are actually looking inside these encapsulated packets. We need a strict, definitive defensive playbook to secure that border.
So here is your concrete checklist for shutting down these unauthorized tunnels. Number 1, disable 6-4, ISATAP, and Teredo on all your endpoints right now. Unless you have a highly specific, explicitly documented need for them, they should never be on by default. Number 2, you must block tunnel protocols, specifically Protocol 41, at your perimeter firewalls. Look, if you aren't intentionally tunneling IPv6 over IPv4, do not let that traffic anywhere near your border.
All right, our final section, Section 5, Securing Translation Mechanisms, specifically looking at NAT64 and DNS64. If your network is actively bridging IPv4 and IPv6 and utilizing active translation layers like NAT64 and DNS64, you've got to follow these mitigations. First, limit their use strictly to IPv6-only networks, and only where that bridging is absolutely required. Second, do not use NAT44-style translation in an IPv6 network. I mean, IPv6 was literally designed to eliminate the need for NAT in the first place, right? So let's not reintroduce all those old complexities and security blind spots. And finally, this is absolutely crucial. You must maintain highly accurate logging of both pre- and post-translation addresses for every single flow. Because if a breach happens and you can't correlate the original IPv6 address with the translated IPv4 address, your incident response team is going to be flying completely blind. Which brings us to our final thought for today's explainer. Are your trusted legacy defenses secretly giving attackers a free pass into your network via IPv6? We've seen exactly how flexible headers hide payloads, how RHO routes around your rules, how tiny fragments confuse stateless firewalls, and how these transition tunnels punch right through NAT. So I highly encourage you to take these insights from Chapter 3 of this Virtualization Options LLC tutorial and go audit your perimeter configs today. Don't let your solid IPv4 defenses give you a false sense of security in an IPv6 world. Thanks so much for joining me, and I hope this helps you lock down your networks for real.